What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Times.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? Welcome to Tuesday's episode. Definitely continue to tune in, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And then Monday and Tuesday are topics, Wednesdays are discussion, and then Fridays talk about everything else non-cybersecurity related. Without further ado, I give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this, excuse me, this article comes from CNN.com by Sean Lingas, and it's titled U.S. Government Agencies Hitting Global Cyber Attack, right? So as they are wont to do, right? Like here's what we got again, another cyber attack, right? So several U.S. federal government agencies got hit with a global cyber attack by Russian cyber criminals, right? So Russia is hitting hard, right? The previous episode, believed to be Russia, right? With the hacker gangs, I don't know what you call them, but and now we got this, right? So this one is exploiting a vulnerability in a widely used software called MOVEit. So MOVEit applications are used for like file transfers of sensitive information. So again, this is what catches everybody's attention, right? When they think, their PII, their socials, their medical history and all that gets out there. But yeah, they're at it again, right? So, but this isn't just the U.S. government agencies, right? So they say that several hundred, that's a quote because it's in an article in quote, several hundred companies and organizations in the U.S. could be affected by the hacking spree. And this comes out from CISA. So CISA is the one that's kind of at the forefront of this, like they're doing the response, right? So now in this article, it references a previous attack by CLOP, is what they call it, CLOP. And so I went and I looked at that one, and this is only like a week earlier, and that they had an issue, and it was the BBC and who was the other one? The BBC and I want to say British Airways. Yeah, British Airways. So the BBC and British Airways got hit like a week before. Same thing, right? So this is how it's far reaching, right? So it's not one of those things where we can't keep assuming that things that happen over in Europe or, over in Australia or whatever overseas aren't going to come home to the United States. But yeah, so they haven't had any significant impacts yet. They say significant impacts on federal civilian agencies, but they've been opportunistic in everything that they're trying to do, right? So they keep trying to poke and try to find all these different things that are going on with the MOVEit applications. And again, this is a flaw in the software, a piece of software that does transfer of data, right? So they actually have a quote in here. So Progress Software, which is the U.S. firm that makes the software, told CNN Thursday that a new vulnerability in the software had been discovered that could be exploited by a bad actor, right? So as usual, like they don't do a great job of telling you in these releases like what actually was exploited. Like they go in the background, they fix everything, and then they just tell you, hey, we're working to fix the issue. But yeah, so this is one of those things where, again, you start going after the U.S. government, like what's going to end up happening. We've started to see it in the last couple of years, that we've got a little bit more on the offensive when it comes to things like this. Like we don't take this line down like we used to. So but again, because it's U.S. government agencies, like they're jumping into action, right? Like you had the Department of Energy that took steps, because Department of Energy, like they deal with a lot of nuclear stuff, right? And the hope is that, right, none of that stuff is connected to the internet, right? Like this is how Skynet takes over, right? That's what you hope. But this doesn't happen, right? So AI, that's going to come up shortly. We're going to talk about that, but just stay tuned, everybody. But yeah. So, I mean, you got all these departments that are doing what they need to make sure that they fight against this. But yeah, so we got to stay on our toes, people. Like this is one of those things. Always when it comes to vulnerabilities, my hope here is that they're not exploiting something that was old and had already been patched, right? Because then you can't really say that the Progress Software or whatever their name was, that they didn't do their part. They have a fix out there and people just weren't patching like they need to, especially when it comes to moving sensitive information, right? Like for file transfer, and especially in the government, right? So, and I don't think that's the case. I want to say I don't think that's the case. I just hope that's not the case, because I know how much patching I have to do working for DoD. You know what I mean? Like what goes into that, and how often we got to do it, and it's reported on. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I mean, again, they out there, that Russia's out there again, right? Getting it in. They're mad because Ukraine's not going like they wanted to, but this is where we are. This is, like I said in the previous episode, this is the wars we're going to fight. This is where it's going to be. It's not going to be bullets, bombs, tanks. It's going to be this, right? So go in there, bring things down that people rely on so much when it comes to technology. And then you can roll the tanks in if you want to, but you might not even have to do that. People might be crying when they don't have access to Facebook. You know what I mean? I can't get I can't do my status. You know what I mean? I don't know. Is that what people do on social media nowadays? I don't know. I don't have it, so I can't say for sure. But Ryan, what's your thoughts on it?
People check in. Let people know that they're marked safe and things of that nature. But so I don't believe it was on purpose on the government side. So, because they actually released a statement, even though I wouldn't believe it, right? If I was CISA or whomever else, where it says, what's it say? Instead, the hackers wrote in all caps, "If you are a government, city, or police service, do not worry. We erased all your data. You do not need to contact us. We have no interest to expose such information." So they're like, if you're a private company, like here's the portal to go ahead and pay us. If you're the government, we purge that. We don't want no smoke. We don't want none of this. So I don't believe that it was intentional, but I don't believe that they erased the data either, right? Like if it was opportunistic, they were attacking a wide swath of different companies, and they just so happen to pull some government data. That's gold mine. You don't want to necessarily poke the bear, but you'll retain that data. You're like, okay, this is some good stuff.
So you think because of that, because I don't believe it either. So you think the one that hit the BBC and British Airways, that was the real intention, to get those civilian companies?
Yeah, because it says over 100 companies were attacked. It talks about universities and other things. Like I think that they found a flaw, and it so happened to pack so many different types of customer bases. They're like, cool. And then they saw like the Department of Energy information coming in and things of that nature, like, ooh, we don't want that. Or if they like, they could be lying. They could also want that as well. They just know better than to ask the Department of Justice for money, because it's never going to work out well for you. But also because of the entanglement, right? It's still not going to work out for them. Like now they're going to get hit hard by Department of Justice, the FBI, like everybody's coming for them. So they should get whatever they can get, and they need to get out of town. But what will probably happen is, because we saw that the DOJ is really good at getting money back. So if they are, trying to pull Bitcoin and things of that nature, they might not get that either. Like, so this could have all been for naught to a certain extent, because of them hitting the Department of Energy, hitting other government entities. Because they said that the DOE one was a contractor. Like it wasn't like the actual Department of Energy. It was someone who takes care of nuclear waste, which is still very important. So it does make me nervous as well, right? Because that is sensitive information. That is, you like, who knows what they put, like where we put the stuff, the processes of properly burying the stuff, etc. Like all dangerous, even routes. Like we talked about it in the episode with Mike Ware, where they're searching for justice and where they put this stuff at. Like, so if you like, the reason that they don't want to bring it through affluent neighborhoods, and it's not from our conversation, but this is information that I heard about years ago, is that they do the routes for the nuclear waste through areas that are typically impoverished or don't have the ability to fight it going through the neighborhood, because it has to go somewhere. Because what they're afraid of is that it becomes a dirty bomb, right? Like, if the route is going to take, and then you were to do something to that waste as it was in transport, it can cause a lot of damage. It can make people sick, et cetera. There's second and third order effects to it. So rich people don't want that.
Like in Ohio with the trains.
Yeah, rich people don't want that. They're like, don't bring that through my neighborhood. Like, take that somewhere else. And obviously, somewhere else is the neighborhood they can't fight. the situation. So I'm extrapolating a bunch of stuff that might not be like they may have just got a bunch of payroll information from this third party. We don't know what they stole. But the point is, something to be cognizant of, something to be nervous about. So again, like they may have only wanted to target civilian companies, but now they've mixed that in with the government entities, and now like God help their souls. Like it's going to get very aggressive, especially when it comes to like now you're going to get like anything that is under U.S. jurisdiction. Like they're going to report you to the authorities, because like now you're not supposed to pay ransom. You're supposed to report like, hey, due to the new administrative executive orders, like you're supposed to tell them within a certain amount of time, depending on how critical your services are. And there's other frameworks that are like that too, like GLBA, GDPR, PIPEDA. Like there's a bunch of different frameworks that like how you have to report. So you're not going to get much of what you're looking for. So maybe some moms and pops, but anything that has critical infrastructure, you're not getting you're not getting that money from them. That's not going to happen. So we will see what the far-reaching implications are. But I think that they went too far, and I don't believe they did it on purpose. That's not how you get your money. So I think it was they didn't know that I guess what is it, MOVEit, is it was used by more than just these entities. So because that one statement gives me like, okay, yeah, y'all messed up. So we will see what happens. But again, hopefully a lot of the good quote unquote information was not taken, because there are so many frameworks to tell you that you have to air gap this, you have to make sure that you're not retaining that, you have to make sure that these systems aren't accessible, like you said, to the internet, things of that nature. So hopefully it's just a bunch of garbage that they pulled, and then we don't have to worry about too much of the far-reaching implications in the future. So, but that's to be seen.
Well, like you said, right, this was an entanglement, right? So you got to hope we don't send Will Smith over there to smack anybody.
It's part of the lexicon now. I didn't even think about that. You're like, you just go over there and slap everybody. Like, problem solved. But we'll see. We'll see what the future holds. So definitely continue to tune in. I'm sure that this will repeat itself like the last episode. Well, I'm sure that information will come up again. And then definitely make sure you're listening out for Wednesday's discussion, because I think it pretty much ties into this week as well. So continue to subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. Hit us up by our website that go by our name. Give me a personally. I'm at RY Security Guy. That's RY Security Guy. I'm on Twitter, Clubhouse, and LinkedIn. Stay safe, stay secure.